We have an interesting Friday Fuel this morning. My guest is Carolyn Cobb. She works here at NASBAR, and she's, well, not quite a new employee, but she's pretty new still. What she does is she manages our social media accounts, and it's something we've been looking for a long time to find someone who's really good at that. And I know realtors all over are using social media well, and many of you are struggling with social media. So I thought we'd spend this morning talking about what we're doing, but also what the difference between different types of social media are, why would use one social media platform than another, all of the differences in social media, because I think in some ways it's still quite confusing. So Carolyn, if you would introduce yourself, tell what your background is, because it's a little not straightforwardly social media background.
Yeah, so I am only 24, so I haven't been necessarily in a long game with my professional career, but I went to Emerson College in Boston, and I actually was a double major in creative writing and political communications. Had this long-term goal of, going into politics, but when I was learning about political communications, I also just learned a lot about what it's like to, run a campaign and different types of communication styles. And so social media sort of, came into the forefront because it's being used all the time in political campaigns. That's what I graduated with. I planned on going to law school, and then I sort of pivoted. I did some social media work for a dog training company, and then I also did freelance for just a bunch of people in the Chicago area before I came here.
I like the word that you use, campaign, because I think that's what's missing in many realtors' life. They are not using campaigns. They are willy-nilly doing a little here or a little there, or someone says, oh, you should try this, or oh, you should try that, and they're not making a campaign. Talk about what you mean by when you're talking about someone building a campaign.
Well, I think when you take it outside of the context of politics, people don't understand that, their social media is really a personal brand. And they are their personal brand. It's really funny because the first month that I was here, we actually had Tommy Choi come speak at our staff meeting. And he really brought up this whole thing that, this is something...
Hang on a second. Tell who Tommy Choi is a famous Chicago realtor and works... I think he's past president of the Chicago Board of Realtors, really working a lot with Illinois Board of Realtors. And he has created an incredibly successful media campaign for himself
and a business, because it's
and a business from it and a business.
It's his own, because he has his own realty group.
Yes,
and we actually, when he came and spoke, he echoed a lot. I think what I made many jokes when we were in that meeting where I was like, I didn't pay him to say what I've been saying since I got here, but it was a lot of focus on how everything you post is your personal brand. And I think a lot of what I've seen since I've gotten here and outside of the association world when I'm working with people who are our members is that they think that social media is, I'm going to post the house that I sold last week, and then I'm going to do that every time I sell a house, and that's all that my platform's going to be. And I think that people forget that when you are doing sales, which is a big part of what real estate is, you're selling yourself. And I think that that's the big thing. Again, when you come to a campaign, going back to the question, you're campaigning to be someone's, professional guide to everything that has to do with selling, buying. You understand the legal parts of it. You understand what it's like to, get a mortgage. You're their one-stop shop.
You are correct. A realtor is their one-stop shop for all of those things. They may not do them, but they are the people who guide through all that process. Now, but as someone who is not 24, I get confused. There are so many places that I can be advertising and so many things. So talk to me about the breadth of platforms that I can be using. And as you're talking about the different ones, why would I be using this platform versus this one? Or why I would be using this one this way and this one another way?
Yeah. I think this goes back to personal brand. I think one of the things that I've been talking about when we go into a social media consult, when I've been talking with members, is that there are a couple things you need to iron out when you start building. It doesn't have to necessarily be from the ground up. If you're doing something that you like, you can continue doing that. But for each person, it's sort of you should develop your own mission statement, your own value statement, and your own vision statement. And that's mainly not to, have that be the spiel that you're saying every
Yes.
time you make a video, but it's to keep you on track and to be like, okay, I know that, let's say advocacy politics, where we've been, at Capitol Conference recently. That's a big part of you as your personal brand, is that you're heavily involved in that. That should show up in your social media. Or, education is a big deal for you. So you want to make sure that your clients understand, I don't know, how they're going to file specific forms, tax forms, and how they can get breaks on parts of, the property that they own. If that's a big piece of that, you need to make sure that you're creating media that focuses on what you're passionate about. So going back to what platforms are going to work for what specific things, that's something you also have to think about, again, in relation to your personal brand. So if education and professionalism and advocacy were important to me, I would focus on LinkedIn. That's a professional network. You're doing a little bit more B2B interaction, business to business. If I was more...
And what would I put there? So give me an example of, if I was a realtor and I was going to, and my passion was education, that I had just sat through, I just received my accredited buyer representative certification. Mm-hmm. Is that something that I would put on LinkedIn?
Yeah. I think if you are going to a class and you were like, wow, that class was so insightful, you go and you write about it. Hey, I just went to the class. This is what I learned. This is what I'm going to take to my clients. This is what I took away from this class. And this was taught by this person. And you tag them. And you again, you're having that engagement with the people who are, teaching you how to be a better agent, which I think is beneficial because you're creating partnerships on that platform. And then you're still allowing anyone who's seeing you, again, if you want to have this professional, professionalism is a big part of your brand. Hey, I'm going to be super transparent with you. This is me being authentic. This is what I want to say to you. And I think that on LinkedIn, the difference is it isn't like necessarily life updates. It's you speaking about what you're doing to better yourself and better your career. And so sort of in response to the other question of how are you picking specific platforms, it's like Instagram is going to be a little bit more personal. You can do a variety of content on there. You can do stories, which I call...
Okay, mm-hmm. I know. I want to ask you about that, because define what a story is on Instagram.
So stories are on Facebook and Instagram. They're actually also on TikTok if you use it. And they are instantaneous. You're on the go and you're taking a picture or a video of what you're doing and you're posting it and you're maybe saying something short and sweet about it. And what I call stories is that's a soft post, versus a hard post would be something that you're pushing to your feed. So if you're on Instagram or you're on Facebook or you're on LinkedIn or like even you're making a pin on Pinterest, those are hard posts because they stay forever. Whereas stories are instantaneous. They're only going to last 24 hours. Unless you put them on you can later put them on your page as like a
hard post.
As a highlight, not
as a highlight. Okay.
So it gets a little bit complicated because I think there's a lot of like buzzwords when it comes to what I'm saying. But I really think it's, again, if you're using a story, it's more about you tracking your day, like day-to-day behaviors, like what you're doing, stuff like that. So for me, if I was talking to somebody and they're, like we referenced earlier, their social media consists of, I sold a house, I sold a house, I sold a house, I sold a house. And that's just all the stuff that you see on their page. I would encourage them, hey, maybe you can make a reel like with a walkthrough of the house.
Another word. Wait. There's another word. Tell me that's the difference between a reel and a story.
Yes. So a reel, again, is what I would call a hard post. That doesn't last 24 hours. It lasts forever. You post it, it's there until you delete it, unless you want to delete it.
Okay.
And so Instagram Reels are sort of Instagram's response to TikTok when it became super popular. It's a short form video. They can last from 30 to 1 minute. Well, they can actually be shorter. But they 0 to 1 minute and 30 seconds. A lot of people say the ideal is 30 seconds at least because, you want to have some engagement. And again, longer form content and shorter form content, when it comes to a reel, even the difference between, something that's 8 seconds versus like taking that 1 minute 30, a lot of what you're going to learn is that your audience responds differently to it depending on who you are and what content you're making. And that's the other thing that I would say that people don't understand about social media is that most of these platforms at this point in time allow you, as long as you are on a business profile, to metrically track when you're getting engagement. Not just the amount of likes, but, what are the demographics of the audience?
All right, hold on a minute. There's a difference between likes and engagement then.
Yes. Yes, sort of.
Okay.
So when it comes to engagement, you have a couple different things. People can watch it, people can like it, people can comment, and they can also share it. And then with some stuff, you can also, for example, if any of you guys have used Instagram or Facebook, you can sometimes reply to a short form post or a soft post like I've been referencing, which is a story. So there's different ways to engage with content, and engagement's going to vary. But typically, the metrics that are built in with Instagram and Facebook, because they're both owned by Meta, are going to be pretty similar, and they're housed in the Meta Business Suite or just directly in the app. So they'll tell you, if you click on a specific post, the breakdown of how many people shared it, how many people liked it, how many people commented, and you can track, hey, I know this 8-second video is doing better than when I post 1 minute and 30 seconds. So what are you going to do?
Make more 8-second ones and fewer long ones.
Exactly.
Does it tell you who engaged?
No. So that's something that I think there's a misconception about a little bit. You're never going to be necessarily able to, unless it's someone liking or commenting on your post, you can't see who shares your post, but you can see who likes and comments, because it's just like how the platform is built. You can say, oh, I know, I'll use you as an example. I know that Deborah, I saw that her little username, she liked this, she commented, I saw that. But when it comes to sharing or anything like that, you can't see who's sharing it. Because they could be sharing it, to a family member, or, let's say their social media manager be like, hey, I want to make content like this. But you can't see necessarily who that is. And I think that's Meta trying to do their best to increase privacy across platforms, Facebook and Instagram. But it's interesting because, the inception of Instagram, you used to be able to see what everyone was doing. There used to be a separate section where you could see what people were liking and commenting all the time, but they actually took that away to increase privacy.
We have only a little time left because we're trying to keep these kind of brief.
Yes.
If I came to you and said, I'm really dumb about this and I'm really new about this, I'm starting my real estate career. Mm-hmm. Tell me the first thing, and I do have a vision statement, I do have a mission statement, I do know what I want, mm-hmm. but I don't know much about social media. What platform should I start with?
I think it depends on your audience. And I know that's not the easy answer, but I think that's the big thing. I think that's the second part of when you're defining your personal brand. Who are you trying to reach? Because if you're reaching an older audience, I would not recommend Instagram. But if you're trying to tap into, maybe first-time buyers or even renters, I definitely think that maybe Instagram is the place to be. And I think that the other thing that I would say, if I can, the biggest obstacle that people have when it comes to making content is trying to make it perfect. I think that people get so stressed out that it's not going to look the way that they want, or they're not going to sound the way that they want, that they don't post. And that is always going to hurt them more than help them. Because at least when you're posting, you're visible.
Okay, so perfection is not the goal here.
No.
Productivity is the goal. Product is the goal.
Yes, and I think also it's just being authentic. If you are trying to create this perfect image of who you are, I'm less inclined to work with you. I think that's true for most people. We're not looking for, the polished perfect thing. We want someone who's relatable. We want someone that we feel like, oh, I know that Deborah's going to tell me the truth because, she's authentic, she's true to herself. This is what she stands for. And I think that when you try to curate this perfect image, it makes it hard for someone to connect with you.
I think that's the success Tommy Choi has. You believe him when he talks.
Mm-hmm.
Carolyn, thank you for spending the time with us this morning. I really appreciate it. And you are doing a great job with our social media.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.